this past weekend, we lost a major piece of the MMA community. Former two-time UFC title challenger Anthony Johnson passed away after battling a illness privately. I became a fan of his through all of his career highlights, and I was so excited when he was signed to Bellator, and thankfully I was able to watch his last fight just over a year ago in Bellator, where he ended the fight in spectacular fashion by KOing his opponent. Just a major person of the MMA community lost. And my condolences go out to his family and friends. And rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson. Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 21. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC 281, what an event that was. Also, I will be previewing UFC Fight Night, Lewis vs. Spivak. And also we have Bellator 288 coming from Chicago, Illinois, where we have the light heavyweight championship on the line. And also in the co-main event, we have the lightweight belt also on the line. That should be a great event. Ring that bell. All right, let's get to UFC 281. It was a stacked card from top to bottom. Starting off the night, we had Carlos Ungberg getting a vicious KO. Left his opponent face down on the canvas. Really brutal KO to start off the night. The next fight was a bantamweight bout, and Montel Jackson gets the decision victory. The next fight was a featherweight bout between Mike Trizano and Chu Sung Woo. What a fight this was. This fight started off with both guys simultaneously knocking each other down with the two of them threw hooks that landed at the same time. This is how this fight got started. And it was action from start to finish. And Mike Trizano gets the TKO finish 4 minutes and 51 seconds into the first round. This fight was very close to going to the second, but both guys just put on a slugfest, and neither of them were backing down until they were out of the fight. And congratulations to Mike Trizano on the exciting and impressive victory. Moving on, we had a women's strawweight bout. We had Karolina Kowalczyk, I believe that's how you say her last name, and Silvana Gomez-Juarez. And Karolina Kowalczyk gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Matt Frevola taking on Altamir Azatar, and Matt Frevola just leveled Zatar with big shots and knocked him out cold in the first round. What a performance by Matt Frevola. Very impressive, as Azir was coming in 13-0. So Frevola takes away his O. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout. We had Andre Petrosky taking on Wellington Turman, and Petrosky gets the decision victory, and in the process calls out Bo Nickel. I would definitely love to see that matchup. Petrosky is a great grappler, and it would be great to see both of those guys duke it out. In the next bout, we had a women's flyweight matchup. We had Erin Blanchfield taking on Molly McCann, and Erin Blanchfield dominated from the opening bell until she got the submission victory in the first round. I'm telling you, Erin Blanchfield is a problem for this women's flyweight division. I mean, you could just see the talent oozing out of her in this fight. She got Molly McCann in a crucifix position and rained down strikes. And, but credit to Molly. She was hanging in there. She was trying to get up, trying to get out of that position, but it is so hard to escape a crucifix position. when you're in it. But Erin Blanchfield, what a performance by her. And I think she put this division on notice. If anyone was overlooking her, they better not overlook her now. That was a big statement victory for her. Moving on, we had a light heavyweight matchup. We had Dominic Reyes taking on Ryan Superman Spann. And Ryan Spann gets the vicious KO just a minute and 20 into the first round. Spann hit Reyes with a lot of shots, from the opening bell, and Reyes was getting hurt, with almost every punch that connected with him, and that obviously was not a good sign. And then Spann throws, I think it was a jab or something, but lands clean on Reyes' chin, knocks him out unconscious, legs go stiff. It was a very brutal KO. And, I'm not really sure what happens next for Dominic Reyes. That's 4 straight losses. He's been brutally finished in his last 3 fights. This is a big crossroads for him and the UFC. What are their next plans for him? I just hope he recovers fully and can get back on a healthy track. But a lot of questions surrounding Reyes at this point. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Brad Riddell taking on Rakanto Moicano, and Moicano gets the first round submission, and a very dominant performance by him. But I think more people are talking about his on-the-mic performance after his submission victory. Man, he was so entertaining on the microphone. I've never seen that from Moicano. And, he definitely gained a lot of new fans. He said he felt disrespected, and he wants money. If you haven't seen that post-fight speech, go look it up. You will not be disappointed. Very entertaining post-fight speech. So, that definitely sets him up for a big matchup in the future. Moving on to the main card, we had Dan Hooker and Claudio Puelles starting the card off, and Dan Hooker gets the TKO finish in the second round by body shots or a body kick. And, Claudio Puelles, he had Hooker on the ground and was trying to fish for submissions in the first, but Hooker did a great job of getting out of those positions. Claudio Puelles, he tried to, get Hooker's legs locked up. He was rolling near his legs, trying to get that knee bar locked in, but it just did not work. And it just kind of seemed like, Claudio Puelles kind of just gave up a little bit. You could definitely see that when his submission game didn't work, he did not want to stay on the feet with Hooker. And, he just didn't really have much else to give Hooker on the feet. And Hooker kind of knew that and just took advantage and, brutal body shots. Sat him down once, and then he sat him down again. And I think that was the finish. Dan Hooker is back in the win column. Moving on, we had a bantamweight bout. We had Frankie Edgar taking on Chris Gutierrez. This was Frankie Edgar's retirement fight, and unfortunately, it did not end well for Edgar. Chris Gutierrez gets the brutal KO by knee, just put Frankie Edgar out on the canvas flat. It was a crazy knockout, very, very emotional moment. Once Frankie Edgar regained consciousness, his family was there, but he was able to do a post-fight speech, and, much respect to Frankie Edgar, the legend that he is, the former lightweight champion of the world. Nothing but respect for Frankie Edgar. I wish he didn't have to go out like that, but, that is the game that mixed martial artists play, and they know that coming in. I just wish Frankie Edgar happy retirement, great health, and just spend as much time with his family as he can. Just a brutal finish by Chris Gutierrez. So this will catapult Gutierrez in, the bantamweight rankings. So very excited to see what Gutierrez does from here. Moving on, we had a lightweight matchup. We had Dustin Poirier taking on Michael Chandler. What a banger this fight was. It lived up to everything and then some. Chandler had Poirier hurt against the fence, but Poirier, he's got a amazing chin, and he managed to fight through that sequence. It was very similar to when Dan Hooker had Poirier against the fence and was just teeing off on him. I don't know how Poirier survives those exchanges, but man, his chin is insane. What a great fight. This fight finishes in the third round. Dustin Poirier gets the submission victory over Chandler. Win or lose, Michael Chandler is always entertaining. He's always going to bring the fight. He's always going to put butts in seats because of his fight style. What a clash it was between those two. Moving on to the co-main event, we had a women's strawweight matchup. We had Carla Esparza defending her belt against Wei Li Zhang. And let's start. In the first round, heavy, big grappling exchange between both of them. Carla Esparza was actually, Wei Li Zhang came forward, forced her to really engage her, and Wei Li Zhang gets the second round submission. She becomes the new women's strawweight champion. Congratulations to her. She is now a two-time UFC strawweight champion. Now, moving on to the main event, we had Israel Adesanya taking on Alex Pereira. Man, what a fight this was. Right at the end of the first round, Izzy had Pereira rocked, but Pereira gets saved by the bell. It was a clean shot that Pereira took. And then for the second, third, and fourth round, Izzy really took control of the fight by clinching and wrestling, and I believe Izzy got his first ever he attempted and successfully took down his first ever fighter in the UFC, I believe. So Izzy was taking down Pereira. He was doing everything that I said he had to do. He grounded him. He was grinding him up against the fence. He did everything to try to close that kickboxing range. But then, after a fiery speech in the corner, Alex Pereira comes out in the fifth round and finishes Israel Adesanya again. He stops him by TKO. And just that finishing sequence of the fight, just brutal. I believe Alex Pereira landed every shot of that final combination that put Izzy away. Izzy backed up against the fence, dazed, and really just blindly kind of moving his head on a swivel. I thought it was a good stoppage. It would have just got worse from there. Izzy probably would have just went out cold. It's better to save the fighter because he was clearly out of the fight. Pereira was just teeing off on him. I cannot wait for this rematch. What does Izzy have to do to beat this guy? It's just some people, have your number in life, I guess. But Alex Pereira, what a performance. He really put it on in the fifth. He knew he was down. Izzy was going to win by decision if he survived that fifth round. But credit to Pereira, he did not let Izzy survive. So, cannot wait for that rematch. Now let's get to UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Bekvak. All right, getting into this card, looking over the prelims, I just want to highlight some fights and fighters to watch on this card. The first fight I want to highlight is a women's strawweight matchup. We got Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Maria Oliveira. That should be a good, fun grappling match. And another fight I want to highlight is a bantamweight fight with Ricky Tercios. Now, he did have a rough outing in his last fight. It just seemed like he could not get going really in kind of his in the fight, really. He was kind of like, I don't know, it seems like he like kind of stalled out a little bit. I'm not really sure what exactly happened. It just seemed like he was waiting a little bit too long for his opponent, and he lost by decision. Another fight that I want to highlight is a bantamweight bout between Vince Morales and Miles Johns. That should be a good bantamweight scrap. We also have the former title challenger Jennifer Maia taking on Mayana Moraz. And in the prelim main event, we got Charles Johnson taking on Ziglas Zemugolov. And Charles Johnson, although he lost his last outing, he put on a pretty impressive performance. So I do expect John to really come out in his best form in this fight. Moving on to the main card, we have a fun welterweight fight to start it off. We got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Danny Roberts. This should be a fun fight. Della Molina is always a forward pressure fighter, always throwing hands. He's only 26, so he's definitely got a bright future in this welterweight division. Moving on, we got another welterweight bout. We got Andre Fajelo taking on Muslim Sakharov, and Andre Fajelo coming off of a loss to Jake Matthews. So very interested to see how he responds in this fight. Before that Jake Matthews fight, he was on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC, finishing both of his opponents. So let's see if he can get back to those finishing ways. Moving on, we have a heavyweight matchup. We got Chase Sherman taking on Waldo Cortez Acosta. And Cortez Acosta just fought about a month ago. I believe it was October 29th was his last fight. So he is already, fighting again. He wants to stay busy. He is just 8-0. So he definitely wants to climb those heavyweight rankings pretty quickly. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we have Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Ilan Cutelaba. Kennedy Nzechukwu, this is a pretty big step up in competition for him. So I'm very interested to see if Kennedy Nzechukwu can get how he really matches up to kind of, I would say, the top 20 of the light heavyweight division in the UFC. Cutelaba, he's been kind of on the cusp of being a top 15 guy, but he's lost a lot of fights recently. And his last fight, he got submitted by Johnny Walker. So he's been struggling, and he is an exciting fighter, Cutelaba, but there's just, I don't know, there's something that he cannot get over the hump. So let's see if he proves that, maybe he should get another shot at a top 15, although I think he has kind of had a lot of chances in that situation, but, this should be an exciting fight for as long as it lasts. Moving on, we have the heavyweight main event of the evening. We have Derek Lewis taking on Sergey Spivak, and I don't think this fight is going to last very long. Obviously, we all know Derek Lewis. He's the knockout, king of the UFC. He's got crazy power. He's coming off of 2 rough fights. His first loss was, he got KO'd by Tuivasa with an elbow, I believe. And, he was out cold. And in his next fight, the fight, I think, was stopped, pretty, early, I would say. And, so he kind of didn't get a chance in that fight. That fight was, I think, stopped in under a minute. So now Lewis comes back into this fight. looking for a W. And Sergey Spivak, he is a guy that wants to just bring you down to the ground and finish you with ground and pound. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Spivak closes the distance on Lewis, because we know Lewis throws a very, very vicious uppercut. Just ask Curtis Blades. I mean, if you get too sloppy with your takedowns, you're going to eat an uppercut. But Sergey Spivak, very, very strong. I mean, he manhandled Greg Hardy for what that is worth. But he just looked, the guys that he's fought, he's looked on another level. So, we've seen Derek Lewis face grapplers, and let's see if that uppercut kind of comes into play in this fight. And that is going to do it for this card. Now let's move on to Bellator 288. All right, let's get into this Bellator card. On the prelims, there are 3 prospects that I want you to look out for. We got Jordan Newman. He is a middleweight prospect. We also have Sullivan Coley. He is a light heavyweight prospect. And the last prospect I want to point out is Archie Colgan. He is a lightweight prospect. Watch out for all 3 of these guys. They will all be fighting on the prelim, like I said, and that's going to be free on YouTube. So definitely it is worth it to check out these 3 prospects. It's free. It's on YouTube. So like I said, go check that out. Now let's get to the main card. We got a fun fighter in Roman Fernaldo. Obviously he's had a lot. He's had 8 victories, and all 8 victories have been knockouts. I don't think he's gone past the second round. His knees are so impressive. He's landed he's landed 2 brutal knockouts by knee. And, his last fight, I was able to talk to him, after the fight. And, he was really critical of himself. So I'm excited to see, what he's improved. And is he going to get a knee knockout? Because, it's pretty, it can happen with him. He's had 2 already. He's a very entertaining fighter. You never really want to miss his fights. The next fight, we got Tyrell Fortune taking on Daniel James. Tyrell Fortune, he has been with Bellator since 2016, so he is a prospect that has really grew up in Bellator. So excited to see what he can do. And moving on, we also have MMA veteran Daniel Welch, 42 wins, 13 losses. He's going up against Tumar Krazev, who is 11-0. But Daniel Welch, 42 career wins, 22 by submission. So obviously he is a submission ace. So that should be a fun fight to watch. Now we get to the co-main event, which is a lightweight world championship title fight. We have the champion Patricky Pitbull taking on Usman Nurmagomedov. Usman Nurmagomedov, he is, of course, cousins with Khabib Nurmagomedov, who will be in his corner. He's... Usman Nurmagomedov is 15-0, and he is just 24 years old. Truly a prospect that could turn champion. Will Khabib, coach another one of, his family members to a title? I know Makhachev, I don't think is necessarily a family member, but he was his father's protege, so he's kind of adopted into the Nurmagomedov family. But, Usman Nurmagomedov, if he wins this fight, I think you kind of got to give Coach of the Year to Khabib. Even with Bilal Muhammad, Muhammad got a TKO finish with Khabib in his corner. So there's definitely something that Khabib does that really elevates his fighters. But if you just look at Usman, he's ran over everybody Bellator's, given to him. I would have liked to see him maybe face, a ranked guy, before this fight, but obviously with the last name and just with his record, he's going to get catapulted into the title picture. And then we're looking at the defending champion, Patricky Pitbull. Obviously, he won the title. It was vacant. He TKO'd Peter Queally after they rematched because Queally beat him via doctor stoppage. They could not get the bleeding under control, but he eventually TKO'd Peter Queally to get the lightweight vacant title. So this is his first defense. Obviously Patricky Pitbull, he's got that Pitbull brother power. He's got 16 TKOs, KOs in 24 wins. So he's definitely a tough guy to put away as well. He's only been submitted once. So I'm really excited to see how Nurmagomedov handles the striking of Patricky Pitbull, because I feel like Patricky Pitbull is, very confident in his hands, very confident in his power. He's going to walk you down. He's going to throw those hands. And, Usman Nurmagomedov hasn't really been tested too much in his fights. So we're going to learn a lot about Usman Nurmagomedov in this fight. Moving on to the main event, we have a light heavyweight world championship fight. We have Vadim Nurmagomedov taking on Corey Anderson. Now this is the second time these two are fighting. In their first fight, Corey Anderson looked like he was on his way to winning against Nemkov, but an accidental headbutt busted open Nemkov, and the blood could not be stopped. So it was a no contest because an accidental headbutt. And, just what a brutal end to that fight for Corey Anderson. They had the $1 million check in there. And then once it was ruled a no contest, they take that check out. And, it must have really messed with him. That's just a huge piece kind of this tournament being kind of taken out of the cage. But, this light heavyweight tournament will finally wrap up with this fight. It's ran for a while because of that no contest. But, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I want to see if Corey Anderson is going to use that same game plan he did in the first fight, or if he's going to change it up. But Vadim Nemkov, obviously he's with Team Fedor, so he's going to come in probably with a different game plan. And I am excited to see who walks away as light heavyweight champion. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To stay in touch with the podcast, just type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo on Twitter, YouTube, and the Instagram handle is the KO_podcast. Also, I have a website that is linked in my Twitter bio if you want to check out the website. That's going to do it for me. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.